Thanks, Nzinga. You know, nothing says Happy Easter quite like a stuffed tank, right? I mean, but these were the most popular item down at Global Force. Everybody wanted a stuffed tank. So I don't know, kind of crazy. But anyway, welcome. You're really smart to be here. What a tremendous topic. It's a hard topic. Oftentimes, folks don't want to talk about installations because, you know, it's difficult. We're going to be talking about some things here today and looking at the future, transforming Army installations, our foundations of warfighter readiness and lethality. It's interesting, the challenges as you look, probably greater than ever before. You can easily say that. People always say, but you definitely, you know, we had kind of a freebie at deploying. Yeah, there were concerns, and you could be, you know, affected if you were deploying from home station, but not really. You know, it's pretty tough for folks to reach you. Of course, now, I mean, everything from cyber to drones to you name it, those freebies are gone. And there's some real challenges out there. So as we look, you know, focusing on modernization of installations, which is not easy because, again, with tight budgets, oftentimes, where will they take the money from installations? Oh, we'll just cut a little here. And, oh, by the way, you got to earn money here to have this capability for the families, et cetera. So it's a real challenge. I really think there's no doubt, though, installations are critical. I mean, how can you not categorize? They're absolutely critical for success. It's where we have to train. We have to have the training so our soldiers are ready for anything they may see in harm's way. We also have to be able, to project that combat power, as I mentioned earlier. And how do you protect them, project it, train? And then, oh, by the way, all that we do for soldiers and families has to be quality. You know, you enlist the soldier, you re-enlist the family, and they deserve the best. But if you don't have the facilities at an installation, you're really in a world of hurt. And you have to have quality facilities, quality living, quality child care. I mean, you know, across the board, you name it. I can tell you, my last 9 years, I was fortunate to be senior commander at different levels, 2, 3, and 4-star level. And it's number one thing I worried about, the quality and on the installations. Could we take care of the soldiers and families train them the way we needed, and then take care of them? So those garrison commanders do an amazing job out there. But today, focusing on how we can do it better. And I've talked to a bunch of folks here that have ideas, everything from counter drone to better communications to a bit more efficient ways with housing to save money by using more efficient systems and all kinds of things. And that's all what we're going to get at here today. And so I'm glad you joined us. And we got some tremendous panels, real experts, and then 2 amazing keynote speakers, both 3-star superstars. They seem like youngsters to me. I've known them so long, but they're amazing leaders. And so we're very fortunate. And actually, to kick it off, one of our Army's greatest leaders, Lieutenant General Dave Wilson, logistician extraordinaire, will kick us off. And he's got a great background. He's a graduate of the Citadel back in 1991. Yep, Who's heard some Who's back there from Citadel. Most recently, he commanded 8th Theater Sustainment Command at Fort Shafter, Hawaii, which a couple commands ago, but still recently, a critical command across Indo-Pacific with unbelievable depth. He did an amazing job there. He went from there to also commanded U.S. Army Sustainment Command at Rock Island Arsenal in Illinois. And over the course of his career, he's deployed multiple times, deployed in support of Operation Desert Thunder, Iraq, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Iron Saber. He holds a BS in Business Administration, an MS in General Administration, and a MS in National Security Strategies as well. And a tremendous leader as the Army's G9. So, Dave, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Well, to the distinguished guest, General Brown, AUSA, our leaders in the audience, our partners from across industry, thank you for allowing me to spend a little bit of time with you this morning to talk about our Army installation and their importance in today's environment. You know, it's an honor to stand before you all today to discuss the critical component of our national defense. and that's the installations that serve as the cornerstone of our Army. You know, today we're at a pivotal moment in history. Our world is more unpredictable than ever, with great power competition, technological advances, and non traditional threats shaping the future battlefields. The question we must ask ourselves, though, is this: how do we ensure that our Army is prepared to fight and win the most complex security environments of our time? And I believe the answer lies in our Army installations. For decades, our Army installations have served as the foundations of our military might. They're not just places where our soldiers live, work, train, or play. There are power projection platforms, the launching pads from which we deploy our forces around the globe to deter aggression and, if necessary, engage in combat. The installations of the future must evolve to meet demands. No longer can we afford to think of our installations as static facilities or safe havens that will be out of play because we have an away game. Instead, our installations must be agile, resilient, and capable of supporting multi-domain operations. Our installations must integrate cutting-edge technology, such as UAS and counter-UAS, enhance force readiness through the modernization of our training areas, our ranges, and our facilities, as well as remain secure against cyber, physical, or environmental threats. Just consider for a moment the speed at which the modern battlefield is changing. In future conflicts, there will be no sanctuary, nowhere where we can mobilize forces without opposition or being observed. Our adversaries are watching, they're probing, and they're preparing to disrupt our ability to project power. This is why our installations must be ready to operate under these contested conditions. We have to invest in the infrastructure that ensures continuity of operation, even in the face of cyber attacks, electromagnetic spectrum disruptions, and direct physical threats against the infrastructure and facilities on our bases. Our railheads, rail yards, and switches must be upgraded, and the rail lines free of encroachment on and off the installation. And there are ways that we can partner with industry and our community partners on some of these measures through our use of some of the intergovernmental support agreements that could allow us to do more faster and at a lower cost across the board. While our installations have always played a role in global power projection, we must also acknowledge the stark reality that the homeland itself is no longer going to be immune from conflict. In the area of strategic competition, our adversaries are looking for ways to challenge us, not just overseas, but right here at home. They'll look at ways to eliminate our home field advantage. Cyber warfare, information operations, and critical infrastructure attacks could be used to disrupt our ability to generate, mobilize, deploy, and sustain our forces. And so we have to prepare for the possibility that installations will become a part of that fight here in the homeland. And so we have to harden our critical infrastructure, build resilient and redundant networks, and ensure that our bases can operate independently of national power grids, communication lines, or logistic networks of compromise. It also means fostering deeper partnerships with state and local governments, private industry, and our allied nations overseas to create a whole of nation approach to base defense at home and abroad. These opportunities are vast in this space because of our ability to leverage the support agreements at every level, whether it's public-private partnerships and other partnerships, including memorandums of agreement and understandings and cooperative agreements, which cities, states, and counties and municipalities are currently partnering with the Department of Defense on. Maximizing these AUSAs will defer costs. On average, they save 20 to 25% over existing federal contracts. And so the Army is expanding the use of AUSAs at our installations across the country. with our local communities to find efficiencies and cost-saving opportunities while also enhancing already strong community relations. We have several types that we use. The first is cost-saving exits. They save money using public partners, and we're currently saving over $120 million annually in the Army through the use of the intergovernmental support agreements. Second type that we use are the customer-focused exits. Our child care exits at Camp Bull Simon, the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserve provide child care for soldiers where typically CDCs don't exist. And then there's the installation-focused exits. For example, Fort Cavazos, mass transit exits that we signed that allow mass transit capabilities to be brought to soldiers on the base. And so where there's no capability to move them, this exit allows us to have the opportunity to provide transportation to our troops across the installation. When we partner with communities, it allows our commanders at echelon to focus on their priorities and the senior leaders' number one focus area, which is warfighting. And so to date, we have 189 exits in the Army, from child care to water treatment facilities, with 125 towns, states, and universities. And we're always looking how we can enable efficiency without losing effectiveness. And so from across the installation enterprise, we have to ensure that soldiers have good housing, access to adequate child care, and quality of life programs. Because that's how we'll retain the talent and the force that we have today. The installations of the future will not resemble those of the past. They'll have to be smarter, sustainable, and more adaptable to the emerging threats. The Army has already taken steps in these directions, and we're looking at, as we develop smart paces, how we leverage artificial intelligence, data analytics to improve energy efficiency, cybersecurity, and logistics management by integrating technology like 5G and Internet of Things devices for enhanced connectivity, security, and efficiencies. We will better our overall installations operations across the Army. And as you know, 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology. It's not just about faster internet on our phones. It's about connecting everything from smart devices to vehicles on our bases with minimal delay. For our Army, it's a game changer, as its low latency means faster and more reliable communications between our soldiers, vehicles, and command centers, which is crucial during operations. Army installations also use 5G to create smart bases with connected sensors for monitoring energy uses, security, and logistics, making operations more efficient. It can support drone and autonomous vehicles, enabling them to operate more effectively for surveillance, transport, and combat support. With 5G, large amounts of data from sensors and devices can be processed quickly, helping leaders make informed decisions in real time. In short, 5G makes our Army installations operations faster, smarter, and more efficient. We're committed to developing resilient infrastructure, where we look at upgrading facilities to withstand cyber and physical attacks, such as counter UAS, seaborne protection, and irregular warfare, as well as counterterrorism, ensuring that our operations are sustained and uninterrupted on our bases. An example of more resilient infrastructure is showcased in the three innovative transient training barracks built at Fort Bliss, Texas, by the Austin-based company Icon, who partnered with the Defense Innovation Unit. The 3D print barracks, and since that Army designed 3D printed barracks ribbon cutting ceremony occurred, we've had more than 50,000 soldiers transit through those facilities for various missions. This project used robotic construction scale technology, advanced materials to deliver military barracks faster than compared to traditional milcon methods. This barracks was printed in approximately 179 days, the first 72-bed facility. 4 of them constructed in less time than it would take us under traditional MILCON construction periods, and actually cheaper, $1.1 million compared to $3.5 million to print a facility. The project replaced the temporary structures that had exceeded their intended lifespan with energy efficient, resilient facilities that reduce operations and maintenance costs and met the Army's unified facility criteria, including new codes of additively manufactured buildings. The system seismic category B requirements are the shake test, the seismic test, to ensure that the resilient transient training barracks was safe. And DoD is continuing to test this capability for both military construction and expeditionary solutions in the 4 deployed locations, with the potential to reduce time, costs, and personnel. One of the most compelling aspects of the 3D printed buildings is its ability to present high quality structures faster and more cost effective. In fact, the company has received a contract to build a launch pad on the moon. So they will send a print up this fall and actually print a launch pad on the moon. So this capability is pretty innovative. 3D printing is not just limited in design. It allows customizable designs without increased costs. And this enables the buildings to be optimized for weather resilience, energy efficiency, and soldier quality of life. We've developed and continue to develop autonomous systems in the Army where we look at integration of robotics and unmanned systems into the base security and logistics training operations. This would allow for the effective human and machine integration in these areas, which could allow us the ability to operate at the speed of need and the speed of war if necessary. Deploying sensors and drones to detect security incidents around our critical perimeters on our base and fence lines will allow us to immediately connect with our first responders and respond at speed on our bases. Specifics to logistics, developing and autonomous and deploying those systems and ground vehicles for resupply missions will allow us to explore how we could better distribute supplies to our troops preparing for deployments and free up units from having to provide this support while simultaneously trying to deploy themselves. Sustainable energy solutions will allow us to reduce the reliance on traditional power grids through the microgrids and renewable energy and energy storage. To increase readiness, the Army is actively developing and implementing energy storage solutions to ensure that we have reliable power during emergencies like blackouts or severe weather events. One key example is the use of renewable energy microgrids with battery storage in our military installations is at Fort Bliss, Texas. It first used microgrids in 2013, and it featured a solar array, energy storage, and interconnected to the larger grid. In fact, the Army aims to equip all of its bases worldwide with microgrids by 2040, aiming for increased energy independence, which is key to gaining operational energy assurance on our bases. At Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, we've been working with the iron flow battery systems for energy storage. These systems are part of a tactical microgrid designed to reduce the reliance on diesel generators and improve energy resilience in remote or temporary locations. Another example is Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where a floating solar array on Big Muddy Lake, and it's called Big Muddy Lake, provides backup power to a nearby training facility during blackouts, which is critical in a hurricane-prone area. And at Fort Carson, Colorado, we've deployed solar-powered microgrids combined with large-scale battery storage to maintain operations in case of a power outage. This system uses solar photovoltaic panels to generate energy during the day and operates independently from the main power grid during disasters. And this ensures that we maintain operational energy resilience on our bases. It is not just active duty installations that are making the investments. Fort Hunter Liggett, California, the largest U.S. Army Reserve Command post, stands out as a leader in the operational energy resilience within the Army. It has implemented an innovative solution like microgrids powered by renewable energy sources such as solar panels and battery storage to improve their resiliency at that installation. The installation has also achieved a significant milestone in sustainability. It has reduced energy consumption by nearly 50% and generates a substantial portion of its electricity from renewable sources at Fort Hunter Liggett. Fort Hunter Liggett is on track to become a net zero energy installation, meaning that it will produce as much energy as it consumes, well ahead of the federal sustainability goals. And this is powerful. These efforts not only enhance energy security, but it also serves as a model for other Army installations and other military installations writ large. At the end of the day, by investing and modernizing our Army installation with these advancements, we can create an environment where readiness is enhanced, response times are shortened, and our forces remain agile during competition, crisis, or conflict. But innovation is not alone enough. We must act with urgency. The future battlefield will not wait for us to catch up. We have to invest in the modernization now to ensure that our installations remain assets and not liabilities in conflicts to come. We must also cultivate a culture of resilience, not just in our infrastructure, but in our people, our soldiers, our civilians, and families who live and work on these installations. They have to be a part of the equation. They must be prepared for the challenges of a more contested, unpredicted future, and that our installations will be at play. The Army installation enterprise has to be all in on this endeavor, and the Army installation strategy has to underpin these efforts. I truly believe that it's not just an Army issue, it's a national imperative. Our installations do not stand alone. They're woven into the fabric of America, linked to the communities that support them, to the industries that sustain them, and to the people who depend on them for security. So together we must ensure that they're ready for whatever the future holds. In closing, I'll leave you with this thought. The strength of our Army does not begin on the battlefield. It begins here, on the installations where we mobilize, train, prepare, and deploy. The installations of the future will determine our ability to fight and win, both abroad and at home. They're not just places on a map. They're the very foundation of our national defense. So let us commit together to build an installation enterprise that is as strong, adaptive, and resilient as the soldiers that it supports. Our future and our security depend on it. Thank you. Be all you can be. This will defend.
Good morning, sir. So what do you consider the biggest challenge installations face, and what do you need from the industry to assist?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges that we face on our installations really is when we look at our requirements and resourcing, there's definitely a mismatch. So how we optimize the resources that we get in order to sustain and maintain the facilities and infrastructure that we have, as well as balancing, making the right balance. Commanders have said they desire more balance because the installations, our facilities, the places, are not just where we live, but where we work also impact quality of life. So how do we strike and maintain that right balance with the resources that we're given the flat budgets that we currently have? And that's where I think that the biggest challenge that I see from a strategic standpoint, resourcing those installations.
So you prominently mentioned the Army's use of and savings from the use of IGSAs. Do you support the use of IGSAs with local housing authorities to provide dedicated barrack housing outside the installation fuselage line?
Yeah, I think we have to look at all the creative ways in which we bring adequate housing, whether it be barracks, housing, childcare facilities on our installations. Any partnering we could do with our local partners to provide a measure of support is critical. We're already doing so, as I mentioned in my comments at Camp Bull Simon, where we innovatively use the AUSA in order to bring childcare at a location where childcare doesn't exist. So absolutely. Yeah, we do, and Omar from MCOM, as he runs the facilities infrastructure investment plan, the FIP, the MOTCO and the MOTSU are accounted for in that. In fact, we did some work earlier this year, Mr. Clipstein and myself working with the G3 and MCOM to try to change the category in which the MOTCO and MOTSU falls, because those are two strategic points in which 75% of our ammunition goes out during deployments. And as you know, the Army is the executive agent for conventional munitions for all services, not just the Army. And so, as conventional munitions get pushed out from those two coasts, that infrastructure is crumbling and can't meet the needs, then we have a problem.
How's it going, General C. Beta, military.com. I've heard a lot about red tape when it comes to building infrastructure, particularly barracks. It takes a long time to build a relatively simple building. Could you talk a little bit about where a lot of those sticking points are?
Yeah, those sticking points really is in legislation, the Davis-Bacon Act that governs how military construction occurs. That's the thing that prescribes really the timeline factors that impact us with regards to being able to go fast. How we got around it with the 3D printed barracks is really partnering with the Defense Innovation Unit, the Engineering Development Research Center, ERDIC, and Fort Bliss, and use those authorities with the Defense Innovation Unit to be able to get those barracks completed in record time. So, and we're not to a point yet where we could scale the 3D printing like we do all traditional milcons, but there's some areas that we could go faster now and leverage that capability. And transient training barracks is just one example versus putting up cinder block structures that take 3 to 5 years to construct under traditional milcon ways.
Sir, good morning. How is the return to work, it's impacted the installation, and especially after the COVID period and everything?
Yeah, I could tell you from at least in the enterprise portion of the department where I'm working at, we have had really minimal turbulence in that regard, because our workforce primarily resided in the building. Now, from a quality of life standpoint, we had some of our workforce that are disaggregated based on the quality of life program that they're working in, the prevention space, SHARP, and those soldier family programs out at our installations. And so, although some of the workforce have decided to take the DRP, deferred resignation program, others have returned to work.
Good morning. Quick question for you. As an old tanker, I'm curious on, especially what I saw, probably same with Bob, about 30, 40 years ago when we had motor pools on posts. Are you seeing, and one of the chief's point, he's always concerned about readiness, obviously. One of my concerns is, how are you looking on the installations on maintenance facility upgrades? Because obviously, if you want to maintain readiness, you've got to have, I was an old battalion maintenance officer. You've got to have the facilities to work on the vehicles. And I notice a lot of times those facilities tend to downgrade, like the cranes and things like that. Is there a plan to maintain and continue those any kind of modernization on the maintenance portion to make sure we maintain readiness in our combat vehicles.
Absolutely. And the senior commanders and commanders, ACOM commanders, they get to prioritize those facilities inside of the FIP, and they do so. And in fact, in our last FIP war game, we could rack and stack in the Army one to end every one of our facilities and where they fall out and grade out at in the FIP based on senior commander prioritization. So if the chief of staff of the Army, the secretary of the Army asked General Jones and AMC to provide that one to end listing, they could do it. If they decide they want to adjust in an area, we literally adjust the rheostat and we could show them what that looks like in time. We've come a long way in that space from pushing a bunch of paper and reports to get the answer to the test. And now the Installation Management Command, General Jones and his team, using really a great tool and leveraging the FIP war game. We could see ourselves probably better than we could see ourselves at any past point in time within the Army. And so again, the commanders have said, that quality of life is not just where you live, it's where you work. And so that's why those facilities where maintenance is occurring, because it is the cornerstone of readiness. Those facilities get accounted for inside of that same model.
Yes, good morning. So I'm curious if the Army has considered or is considering alternative procurement options, such as other transaction authorities over MILCONs, specifically for manufacturing facility projects.
Yeah, well, that's being actually explored by the Army Materiel Command inside the Organic Industrial Bases modernization plan, 15-year plan, $18 billion invested in our OIB facilities. AMC is looking at all levers in which to get their facilities up to a standard. It's not just facilities, right? It's about the processes, it's the training that the civilians go through, it's the infrastructure, it's cyber hardening themselves. It's all of it a part of that OIB modernization plans for our manufacturing facilities. We have 22 of those organic industrial based facilities across the Army. At the height of World War II, there were 77 in the United States. There's 22 left today. That's our national readiness insurance policy. And so the investment that they're making in that is critical, and will ensure that they remain a critical part of our arsenal of democracy.
In general, you mentioned the critical challenge this morning, which is requirements and resource mismatch and the ability to sustain and maintain facilities to create balance. And obviously, in an environment of restricted budgets and the ability to plan and know what's in palm cycle, what sort of emerging technologies are you thinking about that allow you to be able to, let me default back to my old combat arms days, see yourself, see the enemy, see the terrain? How are you strategically thinking about that process?
Yeah, the first part is the FIP is the thing that allows us to see ourselves, sir. That's the critical piece, and then how we make the investment. Army senior leaders have given their commitment to investing in barracks, housing, child development centers, or operational facilities on our bases, and that commitment that they've decided to fiscally apply resource into, it doesn't get us everything serviced in the time that we would like, but spread out over time, over the FIDEP. We keep making strides at improving our facilities, modernizing our facilities, and building new facilities commensurate with the capabilities that we're bringing online across the Army. And so even as part of the DOTMIL PFP solution, the F portion, the installation enterprise is keenly zeroed in on that space so that we don't bring a capability to an installation and then don't have the ability to sustain and maintain it because we haven't done the things necessary to modernize in those spaces. And so, as we look at the palm cycle, um, what we have committed in that space is steady state. We haven't taken any cuts. We haven't gotten the tour that we would like to get, but the investment is still there.
Okay. Thank you very much for your keynote comments this morning. I think you covered a fascinating array of topics. Particularly interested when you mentioned the solar capabilities with microgrids and then how that ties to 5G installation. As you look at rolling in more AI technology and the amount of power consumption and energy that that takes, what are you thinking as far as meeting those needs? Are there things like small modular reactors, or how do we advance that energy behind the meter capability for your installations?
Yeah, I think we are looking at those and how we leverage the governance control systems to better maintain our visibility in the operational energy space. So there are installations, are hardened against potential attacks on the national grid, so that we're not blinded during crisis or conflict, and we could still operate at speed on our bases. So, microgrids, small nuclear reactors, all of those solar, we're leveraging those capabilities today.